Hello again, everyone. You may have noticed that we're in the spooky vibe today. I was feeling for some little Nightmare Before Christmas, and it just so happened this little gem of a game, Tiny Bunny, was topping the Steam charts and happened to catch my eye as I was scrolling the Steam page, and so here we are, in the depths of this dark little black and white world. So let's go ahead and hop on in. Also, this would be the time that if you have headphones, to put them on, because this game is an experience. Okay, let's hop in. The wind clawed at my window all night long. It wandered the fields and howled like an angry beast. An endless song weaved from all sorts of voices, shrill, gentle, sneery, twined in the air. They were shouting and laughing and arguing about something. Someone was running through the snow while casting long shadows that would occasionally creep close to my bed. Our house had a mind of its own, the creaky old mind of a building that had seen a lot in its days, and was seemingly trying to share its wisdom with the inhabitants. I see a face in the woods, and that's scary. The lonely house faced the forest, and the dark green thicket gazed back with its hollow eyes, rustling, whistling, swaying back and forth. One could come out and stand at the edge of the forest to reassure themselves there was nobody behind the crooked trees. Fuzzy silhouettes swaying in the wind couldn't possibly do any harm. It's just a playing of the light and the shadow. Just a play. I knew it was just my imagination. I was already 12 after all. Still. No, I see it. I told you I saw it. Hey, put away your book! How many times have I told you not to read at the table? It's bad for your health. Look at how slouched you are. Gotta hide my book. I don't protest and put the book about Conan the Barbarian aside. Reading Conan, my man! I was stuck on a line I couldn't understand after reading it 3 times anyways. Olia had already finished her breakfast and was munching on some cookies. She was so enthusiastic, she almost looked like your typical girl from commercials. You're not going anywhere until you finish all of it. I, on the other hand, was still trying to drill a hole in the plate with my eyes, as if it would make the porridge disappear. Hazy anxiousness welled up inside, all because of the previous sleepless night, the black forest around our house, and the gloomy wind. The longer I waited, the colder the lumpy white substance became. It looked like a jellyfish from the Cousteau Odyssey. I love that show. I wonder how horrifying the bottom of the ocean is. Or how cold the Black Forest is at night. Truly frigid. The spoon fell out of my hand. Oops. Mom showered me with a cold glare from her eyes. That stare only a mother can give. What did I just say? I'll get it. I had 10 seconds to catch my breath before battling the nasty porridge once again. I felt around for a spoon. What is this carved on the other side of the table? Karina. Hey, that's my mom's name. I guess she carved it out with something pointy when she was little. The rapscallion sure was a rascal damaging the furniture like that. She would scold me for a week if I did something similar, though. Should I remind her about it? No, she's been in a bad mood lately. I imagined her being my age, sitting under this table. I wonder, was Mom afraid of the dog back then? Or the sounds coming from the attic? Or the thick forest? I imagined my grandma coming into my little mom's room, sitting at the edge of her bed where Olya sleeps nowadays, and saying this in her soft, smooth voice. Taiga is a special place, little girl. It's watching you closely, sniffing you out, trying to discern what kind of beast you are. If you're a good sort, it'll abandon you. It won't abandon you in times of trouble. But if you're a bad apple, it'll grab you by the side and drag you under the ground. And that would be it. Grandma was caring. She never fought with anybody, never yelled, never swore. Those were the times without the maddening screams until late at night, without smashed dishes and mutual accusations. Our parents used to love each other back then. I remember listening in one of their conversations by chance. They were talking about Grandma getting prepared for her funeral. She had already bought the casket, and she called it her cute funeral box. It waited for its time in the closet patiently. It was black, upholstered with meat-colored material on the inside. I saw it when my grandma was getting buried. The house didn't change since the time when she was alive, only all the photos were gone. Glass-covered pictures with gray faces of my ancestors. They all had a dead but watchful look in their eyes. I crawled out from under the table. Olya was done with her cookies and was looking at my share like a sly woodland critter. I turned my gaze toward the frosted window. There were a lot of dark pines outside, but they didn't grab my attention. The pattern of frost formed a picture on the glass. Olya, look, it's a fox! Where? It looked almost like the optical illusion thingies they put on the back of student notebooks. A mixture of lines at first glance, but if you blur your vision just a little bit, a look under a certain angle. Not outside, on the window! Look, here's the nose, and here's... Hey, eat up! Yes, just a moment. I don't see anything. Hurry up, there's not much left. Ah, there it is, but it still doesn't look like one. And I'm telling you, it does. Nuh-uh. It does. Stop it, these kids, I swear. Now I couldn't see the fox either. It disappeared. Went away. Only the frosty patterns similar to stretched out nettle leaves kept creeping up the glass. My dad entered the kitchen with long, measured steps. I want to have a beard like his when I grow up. Mom would always ask jokingly, "Come on, shave it off, it stings." That was long ago. Nowadays, rumbling doors and witty comebacks were an everyday occurrence. Olya always covers her ears whenever she hears something like, "What's the point in all this?" through the wall. "It's all for your sake," Dad would reply, "for the sake of our family." I always caught every sound in fear of hearing the most dreaded, the deadliest word that started with a D. Dang menu. D-I-V-O. I don't even want to finish it. It was scary to imagine that me and my sister could be torn apart and taken in two different families. Anyway, your fox is nothing. I have an owl on my window. You and your owl, talk again. You said you believed me just yesterday. Oh, you said you believed me just yesterday. Has anybody seen my car keys? I remember leaving them on the windowsill. Right. Maybe you did, and maybe you not. Maybe not. You're a grown man, a father of two, and still. Karina, please stop. Just let me get ready in peace. Your keys are in the basket near the phone. Well, thank you very much. Anton, stop making a martyr out of yourself and finish eating already. And the owl? There was no owl. But there was one. It had giant glowing eyes. Olya sprung from the chair and placed her hands on her little face, imitating a pair of eyes with her fingers, the size of an apple each. Last year you had bye-bye in your closet, and now this owl? But I saw it! Olia shifted her gaze back and forth from Dad to Mom to me, but couldn't find any support. Have you thought about befriending it? You know, like feeding it with imaginary mice? Don't bully our girl. She's just afraid to sleep alone because she's still little. Olia pouted her lips in rebellion and rushed into the hallway. The staircase that led to the second floor creaked. Mom gave Dad a strict look. Oh, that look in her eyes, it's so uncomfortable to be pinned under it. Dad just snorted in reply and left ringing with the keys he just found. A minute had passed and the theme song from The Little Mermaid echoed through the house. It was stored on an incredibly worn-out cassette tape which Dad already had to glue together once. It's so easy to fix objects by gluing them back together, for example. But how do you fix a relationship? Mom moved to the living room and I was left alone, anxiously stealing glances at the window. Olia had trouble sleeping ever since we moved into this house. She would toss and turn or curl up into a ball under her blanket. Sometimes she would jump in the middle of the night and turn on the VCR. Cartoons helped to take her mind off all the troubles we had with the move and our parents. And then Olia said she saw the giant flying monster outside her window. She became obsessed with it. Our parents did everything in their power. They tried every little trick to get rid of those ridiculous fears. Olia refused to sleep alone and didn't believe that the owl was just one of her nightmares. After tonight, I was unsure what to make of my sister's words, what to think of it myself. Can nightmares be infectious? Just last night, I couldn't get a wink of sleep, and I ended up thinking of what to expect in my new school. There was a couple of days left before the beginning of a new term. My imagination drew long, twisting hallways that led to a classroom full of kids. But all the students behind their desks were simply dark figures cut out using a template. Circular holes gaped in the middle of their faces and pairs of eyes blinked inside those holes. It was as if some completely different creatures were looking at me from behind the flat black silhouettes. The cruel glares filled with icy sneers made me shiver from head to toe. Will I survive here? Won't they gang up on me and beat me down, stomp me with their bloodied shoes? The damn school can burn for all I care. I just wish for anything to happen to it, doesn't really matter what. I didn't want to go there that badly. I didn't want to see people who were just itching to smack me on the head, trip me up, think of new offensive names for me, worse than the previous one. I felt like the glasses I wore made me an outsider or some sort of monster. My gaze slid across the drawings hanging on the walls. I couldn't consider myself a great artist, but Olia begged me to hang them. Drawing was the only thing that made me feel happy as of late. The small circle of friends I had also enjoyed my paintings, and they promised to call me from time to time. Sometimes I imagine Mom picking up the phone and saying in a cold voice, "You've got the wrong number," or "Anton is not around." Anton is not around. I imagine my future classmates lying in their beds just like me, listening to the howls of invisible werewolves outside their windows. Maybe my new classmates will like me after all. But who would ever like a boy with thick glasses? I mean, my dad used to wear thick glasses when he was little, and now he's married to the most beautiful woman on the planet, my mom. The house creaked, pressed by the wind. The condo we used to live in, a 9-floor concrete building, buzzed with the neighbor's drill, mumbled with a TV set from behind the wall, cried like a baby from the big family next door. Our current house, though I can't really call it new, was completely different. It was silent and easygoing during the day. Its shadows lay dormant in the corners, on the closet, cobwebs, and under the stairs. But they all woke up during the night. Something was watching me from every corner, almost as if old photos of my deceased family with their ashen eyes were hanging on the walls in place of my drawings. The floor was squeaking, rusty drains were moaning, the attic was occupied by noisy drafts. One could think the house was performing some sort of demonic melody. And then I realized I was, in fact, hearing music. It was already playing for a good while. Somewhere at the edge of my perception I could hear a flute. It was mixed with the sound of the wind, of the creaking old house, and my thoughts, too. I stood up and rushed to the window. I wanted to reassure myself that this music was nothing more than a product of my imagination. It's not like someone is playing it there amidst the cold, snowy night, right? Someone was dancing in the field. Black silhouettes I could barely make out with the dark forest as their backdrop. They jumped, basked in the moonlight, bumped into piles of snow, rolled around, and crawled on all fours. Stories about wolves playing under the moon came to mind, but these were clearly not wolves. They stood upright at times, circled and holding hands and whipping up snow, disappearing into the shadows for a brief moment and then coming back. Something bizarre was going on. Shadows dancing in the starless abyss made my imagination go wild, making me anxious at the same time. Suddenly the music stopped. The dancing shadows froze in place, and I could swear pierced me with their eyes. One of the silhouettes immediately parted from the bizarre shadow carnival and sprinted across the field with giant leaps. It glided on squeaky snow without leaving any prints until it was devoured by the pitch-black shadow of my house, which became even darker and thicker. My heart was jumping around like the bird inside a cage. I shut the curtains with a swift motion and stepped back toward the bed. They saw me. A freezing torrent of fear washed over me. I stood in the middle of a perfectly dark room and listened to some unwanted guest move and scrape around looking for an entrance. The sound moved to the right, then circled around the house. Now my guest should be at the front door. I jumped into the bed and covered myself with a blanket as if it could protect me. The shackles of fear locked my muscles. I remembered the funeral, my grandma lying there, hands crossed on her chest, her facial features sharp like that of a tin doll. Ants running up and down the legs of the chairs that held my grandma's casket. I imagined those little creatures crying up her head and pulling her eyelids with their tiny legs. The wrinkly eyeballs would once again move inside their sockets and she'd be able to see her grandchildren. I was chanting the spell she taught me throughout the whole procedure. And now, lying under the blanket and listening to the squeaks and howls, I was repeating the same words. On the island of Bouillon, underneath the blemished sun, in the sea of color blue stands a cabin made of wood. There lay lard and ashen hair for the devil's lair, to feast and always leave alone God's faithful servant named Anton. Evil leave this house must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Bizarre sounds had disappeared. I cautiously peeked out from under the blanket and saw curtains waving around like a hangman. And then the night doused me with a new portion of boiling terror. The sound scratched at my eardrums. In reality, something or someone were scratching at the front door, hurriedly clawing at the wood, demanding to be let in. The door was shut. Oh, Dad had become very cautious recently, so he installed a sturdy lock. I remember him staring at the forest intently as if he was looking for someone. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I hugged my knees, placing my chin between them, and drilled the floor with my eyes. It was so flimsy and weak before the might of the darkness. And then the doorknob twitched slightly. Then it turned halfway, once, twice, as if the person who tried to enter had no hands. The doorknob tilted once more, and then it started clicking violently. My jaw cramped from fear. My wet fingers clutched the blanket, and the door creaked open. The wind taunted me, moaning inside the tin drains. Now you'll see. The door was wide open. The darkness writhed inside the cavernous mouth of the doorway. Tony! It was as if the night itself was calling out to me, flapping its black wings and squeaking with the rusty hinges. I was trembling and snared by the web of darkness that hung across the corners of my room, waiting for the one who weaved it to come out the gaping black hole. Tony! My abdomen tightened and my chest rose up, ready to exhale a desperate scream. But before I was able to do anything, the darkness asked me, Tony, you asleep? My sister's pale face protruded from the thick shadows. I almost screamed from relief. Olya, I'm not sleeping. Did something happen? Olya frowned and stuck out her lower lip, a clear sign that she was about to cry. It's there again, staring at me. Shoo her away, Tony, please. I'm so scared. The fear that was tormenting me just a minute ago crawled away and hid somewhere in my stomach. I needed to calm Olya down. It was just a dream, silly. Don't be scared. Dreams don't bite. No one's gonna harm you. Olya sobbed. She was trying her best to believe me, but was I sure myself? I have an idea. Let's go to your room and watch the video Sleeping Beauty, for example. You like that cartoon, don't you? Why does the Sleeping Beauty have a prince and I have this scary bird? That question took me by surprise. Alright, let's watch Cinderella. My thoughts became tangled, fuzzy. What was that? What studied me with its eyes while dancing feverishly under the moon? The darkness was clinging to the window, and it could be fooled by Grandma's old chants. It couldn't be satisfied with a feast of lard and long ashen hair. Tony, you coming? Yes, just a moment. Okay. That one got... Yeah, my reaction exactly. That's why I didn't want to laugh at Olya and her owl in the morning. Who could be visiting us here in the middle of nowhere? We don't know anyone around here. So persistent. I felt extremely unsettled just from a silly thought that our morning's guest could have come from the woods. I could barely hear voices coming from the front door. My mind was urging me to hide. In the closet, under the table, behind the curtains where Olya always hides. Tony! Tony, come here! I felt like kettlebells were tied to my feet, but still dragged them toward the hallway. A couple of policemen towered over me in the doorway. They smelled like frost and worry. My mom always winced and grumbled the moment she saw patrol cars. Worse than bandits. At the moment, though, she looked somewhat confused. Hello. The senior officer who wore a grim expression nodded. A boy had gone missing yesterday. His name's Vova. Look at this, please. Have you seen him? The policeman held out a photograph to me. There was a ginger boy around the age of elementary school, pictured with a wall carpet as the backdrop. He had a striped cat in his hands and wore a wide smile. No, I haven't. Are you sure? Look closely. Where would I see him? I don't know anyone around here. I barely leave the house. Well, maybe you've seen him from the window. That's right! Your windows look straight at the forest, don't they? The window. No, I haven't seen anything. I see. He sounded tired, but his eyes, his stare, long and heavy, was full of suspicion. I squirmed unwittingly under the weight of guilt which his giant shadow cast over me. The policeman finally tore his eyes from me and glanced over the hallway, the stairway, and the cracks in the ceiling which I haven't noticed before for some reason. How do you like your new place, by the way? Getting used to it? Bit by bit, it's just our little daughter misses the city a lot. Misses the city, huh? Have the locals been treating you well? Yes, everything's all right, thank you. The policeman pierced through me one more time with his gray eyes. My head started spinning. Can I help you somehow? I asked that in a shaky voice to look like a polite boy and to end this unpleasant conversation sooner. Now that I think about it, you look just like one of my nephews, little fella. He's a witty boy around your age, wears the same type of goggles, haha, always engrossed in reading those mystery novels. Told me he wants to enroll in police school when his family visited this summer. Wants to help other people, just like me, see? I felt uncomfortable, as if a distant relative and not a police officer stood before me. You know what? Little boys like you should stay at home and steer away from trouble. These times have changed so much. Mom interjected in a cold voice. You don't say. Ah, well then. What grade are you in, Tony boy? 6th. Have you made any friends here so far? Not yet. I'll be going to school for the first time after the break. Ah then, I'll leave you my number, just in case. Call me if you have any new info. The policemen were gone, along with their shadows, the smell of cheap cologne, and the photo of a smiling boy. His face still stood before my eyes. I wondered what it was like for him being all alone there. For some reason I thought of the forest swaying in the wind. What did his poor parents feel? And what would my parents say if I'd gone missing? Would they cry and thrash around hysterically? Or would they accuse each other like they always do and forget about me? Eventually? Mom, this is Vova. Did he go missing in our forest? Oh, sorry. Mom, this is Vova. Did he go missing in our forest? Seems like it, poor child. I looked out the window at the road. The police UAZ drove off toward the village. The officer's nephew came to mind when I was splitting off old paint from the windowsill. I remembered all the teenage mystery novels from the Black Kitty series I've read this summer. Your average boys and girls investigate all sorts of mysteries there. They looked for clues, spied on suspicious people, and after a set of amazing adventures, bam! Solved any complicated case. They became local celebrities and must have made their parents very proud. I noticed a trail of policemen's footprints that led to the forest. And then it clicked in my head. Why don't I start an investigation of my own? Maybe I'll find that lost boy, and I'll get a reward. Olya will be so happy. And not only Olya, Mom and Dad, too. Maybe they'll even forget about their quarrels for a while. Maybe I'll even save us from the D word. I fantasized buying Olya a Tamagotchi and getting a cassette player and a bunch of tapes for myself. A whole box of Kinder Surprise. When was the last time our parents bought us any toys? Last autumn, I think. My dad had lost his job at the time. There's that annoying song about it. I had little to no idea what the accountant's job like. They count money, I think? Neighbors used to envy us, but nowadays Mom and Dad barely had money to afford sweets, and Dad would always divide a single chocolate bar between me and Olya. Sometimes I gave her my share too. No matter how much I wanted to eat sweets, she was still just a pipsqueak. I couldn't wait to go out looking for clues. I'm going outside. Yeah, right. You want the police to go around with your photograph next? The forest is so thick. What if the boy got snatched up by wild animals or something even worse? Even worse echoed through the hallway. I won't go far. I'll stay away from the forest. Did you hear what I said, or should I repeat myself? Better go pack your school bag or play with Olya. The sound of splashing water came from the kitchen. It meant that the argument was over and Mom had had the last word. What's in here? The dark, stuffy closet. Mom says it smells like mice, but how would she know their smell? She hates when I stick my nose in there. She's afraid I'll cut myself on the freshly sharpened axe. And Olya can't even be lured close to it. She thinks Bye-Bye is living in there. I tried to help her fight her fears once. I opened the door and turned on a dim lamp so she would see that there was nothing but cobwebs, Dad tools, and scratched walls. She still didn't believe me, and I like to hide in the closet and listen to Olya come outside. 1, 2, 3, better hide from me. And then drag her feet on the creaking floorboards, hoping that she wouldn't need to look for me in the cramped monster's den. I think we're going for it, boys. Let's go for it. Our investigation begins now. Anton! I'll whip you if you make a single step out the door. Never mind. To kitchen, then. Let's see what's in the fridge, then. Ooh. What's in here? Grandma kept ice cream for me and Olya there, but now I can only see meat bits for soup and clumped together pellemini. I grew to hate them already. Okay. What's this I button? Ooh. The side of an old ocean freezer was checkered with my childish drawings, Mom's recipes, and all kinds of stickers. From bubblegum with dinosaurs that Olya liked so much, among that still life picture hung a piece of ruled paper with the phone number of the police officer who visited us. First Lieutenant Tikhonov. I read inside my mind, looking at the officer's sprawling handwriting. A scrap of paper was held by 2 pieces of a broken magnet from some old Soviet toy, and those pieces just barely covered up the numbers as if to taunt me, so we're in Russia. I leaned toward it to unveil the mystery and take the piece to a safer place where it would wait for its time when I would finally find Vova and be the first to call the police with the happy news. Anton! Mom's reproachful eyes stared at me. What do you need it for? Hands off! You'll lose it! Angering my mom was the last thing I wanted, so I lowered my hand. Okay, then let's go back. The decrepit and stain-covered calendar was once my favorite form of entertainment. I need to stop right-clicking. Was once my favorite form of entertainment in Grandma's house. I remember waking up and running to the kitchen so I could tear off yesterday's leaf first thing in the morning, as if coming day would get lost in the taiga forest without my help. One day closer to New Year's, one day closer to Grandma's funeral. I haven't touched this calendar for years. Since the time they started writing dark and spooky death chants that only made me gloomy, instead of funny proverbs and superstitions to be exact. I grabbed a dusty calendar leaf with caution and tore it off effortlessly. Sadly, the spooky descriptions from my childhood were still there. 7 horses carry the log. If 7 can't carry, bring the 8th from a fairy. They will take it away and never come back. This is the fate the log cannot escape. I crumbled the gray leaf and threw it into the waste bin, hoping to get rid of the anxiousness that washed over me. It was spreading inside of me like an ink stain on blotting paper. So it appears though our kid is very, very anxious and possibly has some kind of disorder, maybe schizophrenia. With like the visions and sounds and stuff. I'm no psychiatrist, but let's try and sneak out again. I need to distract Mom somehow or I'll get scolded and my ass with Dad's led the belt. We know the feeling, kid. Mom's peg top, a family relic. Mom played with it when she was a little girl, and then she gifted it to me. Olia was next in the succession line. The toy belonged to her now. She stared at the dancing spindles as if it could show her something, a fairy tale or maybe even our future. Now even my little sister was a bit too old for the squeaky peg top. Can I use it to distract the mom though? Can I like pick it up and take it and use it to distract the mom? What about this? My parents prohibit me from making long-distance calls, but from time to time I really want to hear my old friends. Sometimes I would just pick up the phone, listen to the low hum on the zoomer, and the distant crackling imagining of the wind howling in the leaden chords. So how do I distract my mama? Bruce? The cross had seen so many people come and go in this house. It was black, as if it absorbed all human sin from long years it was hanging under the ceiling. After Grandma died, Mom was going to take it off and hang a horseshoe in its place as a lucky charm, but she cut herself with the cross, sharp corner, and almost fell from the stepladder. Dad called it a sign from above and ordered the cross to be left alone in its rightful place. So how am I going to distract Mom is the question. Because we got to distract Mom to get outside. Maybe turn on the radio? I just talk to her? It was difficult to lie to Mom, but there was no other way for me to run away from the home. Mom, something's wrong with the TV. The picture is dim, and there are stripes all over the screen. Mom's face became visibly distorted. You're killing me here. So have you had enough of shooting those stupid ducks now? Told you the kinescope will go dim because of your console. Where will we find a TV technician in this hole, huh? Maybe it's just the settings? Please go see for yourself. Strange, it worked fine in the morning. Maybe the snowfall caused it? Mom rubbed her hands clean on her apron and went to Olia's room. Okay, so Mom's out of the way. Let's run. Book it, boy. Book it. This is your chance. This is your chance, lad. I opened the front gate and went into the field. Carefully, so Mom wouldn't see me from the window. When I crossed half of the distance toward the forest, the snow piles became as high as my knees. I remembered my nightly fears. I saw those silhouettes around here. They were jumping around, holding hands. The hypnotizing music started playing in my head all on its own. In the light of day, those distant figures felt like a simple dream. The sun turned my nightmares to ash, but the aftertaste was still there. And a barely audible whisper in my head, blurry and almost kind. Everything was silent. So silent, I felt like the world was totally empty. No ground, no sky, no parents, no Olia. The time reached its limit, a one-way trip that ended at the forest's penny stockade. Sometimes silence was much scarier than any scream. Our parents would scream at each other while arguing, and both me and Olia turned to stone, listening to them. But then always came the ringing silence. Our apartment became numb a couple of days before we departed. It was hard to remember the last time Mom and Dad joked around, laughing or spent time together, almost like all of it was in a previous life. When they kissed with Olia present, she always frowned and snorted in a funny way. One day it all changed. Something important had left our home, and something scary filled the remaining void. And it was as a fire broke up, and our parents were hurriedly packing our belongings, trying to save themselves and us. From who, though? From people with dead cold eyes who sometimes visited us in our previous home? The eyes that only saw balls of worms on the black ground and everything? And somewhere far away, a siren was going off, trying to warn us of the coming menace. I shuddered, chasing away my delusions, and looked around. There were only me, this white field, and the wind that was whipping up icy dust and belts of powdered snow. I squinted from the sun and turned my eyes into the sunless forest. It looked especially dark in contrast with blinding whiteness. Knobby tree roots slithered among the snow like flat snakes. Rotten leaves and coniferous needles froze into the ice. Dry, prickly branches intertwined, bringing up uncomfortable thoughts about fences. Were they protecting the forest, or were they keeping something from breaking out? Some object was hanging from one point of the pointy branches. I tried to get closer, drowning in snow, and when I almost got to the edge of the forest, I saw a knitted mitten. It looked like a wounded bird among the hungering semi-dark. Should I take it to the police? Their senior officer looked gloomy, but he still reminded me of a Captain Casanova from my favorite TV show called The Streets of Broken Lights. He was also always anxious, with a tired look in his eyes, but still brave and strong. Will this mitten help find the lost boy? Vova! I heard a distant shout. Looked like it came from the river. Vova! As if the trees were calling out to someone. Resounded closer to me. Someone was standing there behind the trees, hiding. You stop that? I knew someone was looking for the lost boy, but still, something was unsettling about that figure. Its stillness, how it was bent unnaturally toward the ground. Its blackness. There's no one there, just branches and roots. It's all my imagination. A nearby bird flapped its wings loudly. A shadow split from the tree and disappeared from my sight. I looked away for just a moment, but when I turned my gaze back to the same place, it was gone. So it was my imagination, after all. Silence reigned for a painfully long time. My muscles were tightly sprung, my heart was beating somewhere in my throat. Any noise, any little movement, any small whisper from the thicket and I'd sprint. But nothing of the sort happened. I looked at the mitten once more. Go for it, boy. You're brave. You're a brave boy. You're a brave boy. You can do this. I decided to take the lonely mitten from the branch. Oh, it's back. A shout rumbled across the field, dissolved in the distance. No echo, no hope for reply. It didn't budge. I pulled harder, the branch cracked and the mitten tore off, landing in my head with a squishy sound. All too heavy, wet. I squeezed it without thinking and something dark spilled from it, forming a tiny string between the mitten and the snow. Stream rose from the snow pile. In a frozen place, studying my palms in disgust. Red. The sound of cracking branches invaded the silence. I didn't have to think twice before running away. Someone was chasing me from the darkness, breaking pine branches, closing the distance with giant leaps. Snow was slowing me down. Crazy thoughts flew through my mind. I'll get caught. They'll get me. I'll get dragged into the thicket. I'll be gone forever. But there was one more voice, probably one of reason, that gave me strength, spurred me on. You can do it. Don't stop. You can do it. I heard an animal roar behind me. It was so loud, my ears went numb. I felt like the sound had come from a pack of hangry beasts rather than a single one. Their nostrils sucked in freezing air. They sensed my fear. Two giant wings flapped above my head. An enormous shadow flew over the clearing, a hoot, a wheeze. The roars were coming from all directions now. From the dried up earth bush, from the twisted pines, from under the windfall. Hurry, run, don't look back, don't look back, don't look back. I felt like it was inside a nightmare. The snowy clearing became viscous like quicksand. I was stuck in place. I pulled my leg from the musty trap to be caught in a new one, even deeper than the one before. I continued to drown, sinking deeper and deeper with every desperate push. Why was the snow ever this sicky? I screamed in horror after realizing this wasn't snow. Someone or something in the snow pile was clutching my pants. I gathered all my strength and I rushed forward. The pressure on my leg was gone. My boots slipped out of the hole and my soles were on a hard surface again. I reached a clear path with one jump from there and ran to my house. Its gloomy facade didn't look so threatening now. The house was in my line of defense of the shadows that flapped their wings at the creatures that hid under the snow. I tripped over the doorstep and smashed into the door. In all my hurry, I still managed to notice the claw marks, as if a dog were striking the wood with his paws, demanding to be let in so it could escape the cold. I hadn't noticed these marks when I was leaving. The heartbeat in my ears was so much louder than my surroundings, I couldn't hear whether someone was following me or not. What if they were already in our front yard, and Mom had locked the door? Drowning in fear, I pulled in the door, and it immediately gave way. I rolled into the hallway and shut the door behind me. Porch planks creaked as my pursuers ascended the stairs. My fingers slipped off the lock and I couldn't click it into place. I gritted my teeth and pulled hard on the iron doorknob, whipping it between the boards. I stared blankly at the door. Someone was standing on the other side of the pitiful, flimsy barrier that was probably less useful than blankets. Wheezing breath reached into the house and crashed at me in waves. It smelled of pine and sweat. Mom peeked out of the kitchen and chastised me with the same frigid voice she always used when talking to Dad. "What exactly didn't you understand when I told you to never slam the door?" I didn't mean to. I snuck a glance at the door. The smell was gone, and the breath was too. There was someone in the first place, of course. Here, a mere 5 meters away from Mom, my fear was slowly weakening, melting like snow in spring, and with it the last bit of strength I had left my body, too. My legs gave way. I propped myself up against the wall so I wouldn't fall over. Mom's expression had changed immediately. The cold mask of strictness and detachment was gone. Mom looked the same as before all those quarrels. She finally saw my condition, my wet pants plastered with snow. "Where have you been? What did I tell you, huh? I told you to stay at home. Am I nothing to you, too?" I got afraid she would cry. I reached out to her like when I was very little and wanted her to cuddle me. But Mom regained her composure fast and put on her usual face. Her eyes shined like steel. Her voice rang out. "Your dad can't find his cigarettes. Be honest, did you snatch them? Were you smoking in secret?" There was someone chasing me, I thought. I stuttered as soon as I started explaining myself. Tears welled up in my eyes. Mom leaned toward me and sniffed my clothes like a beast, searching for the smell of tobacco. Then she squinted her eyes in suspicion and looked into the front yard. Her expression changed in an instant, and she covered her mouth with her hand. "Look, over there, at the fence!" My heart started thumping as if I became prey once again and my pursuers were following me in the field. I could swear that I've heard something scratch at the door, just like my nightmare. Mom beckoned me with her fingers, and I gathered all my remaining bravery to look into the kitchen window, facing my fear. I could barely discern some hairy silhouettes swimming in the snow through the icy winter patterns on the glass. Dogs! Just a small pack of strays with no name or owner, barely reminding of the hungry monsters that live on the edge of the forest. "Oh boy, were you scared of them? I think they'd rather be scared of you, Anton. They were chasing me like a bunny. And what if they were rabid?" The smile had slowly disappeared from Mom's face. Now she looked at the dogs as if it were her first time seeing them. "What if they attacked Olya?" "Mom? I wish your dad could just shoot them all." "Mom, look, they're alive." "Huh? What? Are they your friend or foe after all? Make up your mind. You're not a little kid anymore." Mom sighed in annoyance, and I felt so bitter that I bit my lower lip and fixed my gaze on the cobweb-ridden corner. Well, some detective I am. In reality, I wasn't risking my life among monsters, but rather my pants among a pack of stupid strays. And what for? What use do I have for this? Mitten. Of course! A dark and sticky mitten that belonged to the lost boy made a squishy sound in my hand. Seems like I was clutching it the whole time. That's my trump card as a detective. I hurried to this present clue to my mom. "Mom, look, this is Vova's mitten. That boy the police were asking about in the morning? It's drenched in blood, and I found it hanging on a tree. I can show where. Let's call the police right away, like the officer had told us to. Mom, look! Ew!" A shadow of doubt slowly crept onto Mom's contorted face, as if she were trying to remember something distant, like someone tries to remember their dream, but the image slipped away. "Stop it this moment! Olya will go insane if she hears you! She already has trouble sleeping and whines all the time, and you joke around like this?" At that moment I realized the mitten was actually wet from snow. There was no blood whatsoever. I wanted to sink through the floor from embarrassment. "Come here, my boy," who cried Wolf. "Oh, don't just stand there. Come take your pills." A golden-colored pill, reminiscent of a dead wasp, fell into my palm. "I already took one during breakfast." "Don't talk over me! I told you to stay home, and Dad would have given you a good whipping for that. Come on, take it, or you won't be able to sleep at night, and you have school tomorrow." So I had to swallow the bitter medication, drinking it down with similarly awful water that gave off a taste of chlorine. Maybe it wasn't Vova's mitten. Maybe it wasn't a mitten at all. Just like the forest monsters and Olya's owl. Am I going mad? What's happening to me? Either the pill had an immediate effect or my overexerted brain didn't let fear inside anymore. Serenity washed over me, bringing me yawny indifference along with it. Anton, you done? See, you can do it when you try. Take off your coat. Are you asleep? No, Mom. I was just thinking. What about, I wonder? It's just something silly. Mom scrutinized me with suspicious eyes, as if she wasn't sure she was looking at her own son and not some doppelganger that came from the forest. Is everything all right? You had the exact same expression when the policeman asked you about the window. I'm all right, Mom. She heaved a deep sigh. Fine. It seemed like the house had changed. The sofa's fabric had become discolored. Fingerprints appeared on the bathroom tiles. The light bulbs also felt different, dimmer and yellower. Even the saliva inside my mouth had a different taste. A melody from Aladdin could be heard from the upper floor. Olya was done rewatching her favorite Little Mermaid episodes and switched to other tapes. I slowly changed into my home clothes, stopped before the sink, and studied my reflection in the mirror, like I was trying to solve one of those spot the difference puzzles. Then I went upstairs. Jafar and Lago's voices died down. I walked past Olya's bedroom and slipped into my own. I don't trust it. There's other stuff that we can examine. My Triceratops figurine. I know about all sorts of dinosaurs. Velociraptors, Venators, Hypsilophos. Clicking on that dinosaur was a mistake. I remember going to the movies to see Jurassic Park back when we still lived in the city and taking pictures with the T-Rex in the hall. It turned its head and roared. It was awesome. And next to it was a Robotech Transformer. I love this cartoon. When a jet fighter speeds up in the intro among the sounds of blaster fire, you know your next 20 minutes will surely be amazing. Zentradi space station is captured. Rick, get ready for a battle. I've dreamt of becoming an artist since Dad bought me my first comic book. Fly magazine was the coolest. I especially liked the big space-related edition with alien monsters and that funny episode about Gendarme. I started drawing all kinds of stuff since that day, and it seemed to be getting pretty good at it. One of my letters even got published in Fly once. Maybe someday they'll even publish my comic. Okay, let's go for the open. One of the drawers was empty. I had the mitten there. This simple action drained the last bit of my strength. I sat on the bed, and only then I noticed there was someone behind the curtains. My tired hands dropped to the sheets. Whether it was due to the medication I took or the stress I underwent, the room began to contort, as if wind was howling, the walls out like a pair of sails, the room's corners bent and undulated. The only stable thing in the whole room was the figure between the windowsill and the curtains. A flimsy piece of cloth was stuck to my hidden visitor, just like a savant of sorts. Olya? Who else would be standing there? I stood up and licked my dried lips. Yeah, Olya, it's so funny. The silhouette was unmoving. It was enveloped softly by the curtains, as if there was a thick layer of darkness there and not a human being. I reached toward the curtains, but controlled my medication. The wind sang in the field with a chorus of voices. For a second I wanted to return to the bed, just lie down and watch the person behind the curtain, knowing full well they were looking back at me. They're looking without blinking, waiting for me to fall asleep. Plastic rings rustled against the holder when I pulled up the curtains. Gotcha! I knew it was you from the beginning! A blindingly bright halo lit up above Olya's head with the setting sun as the background. My sister was shining. When she was just a baby, Dad always used to say she was shining with happiness. I always retorted, but Dad, she's not some flashlight. But I brought her to the window one day and sunlight poured on her smiling face. I felt like I was holding a child woven from light. I saw everything! Oh, really? Why did you hide? She was just like my mom when she was little, before she put on her sad mask of tiredness and switched to her commanding tone of voice. It's nothing, just... Olya ran up to the table, her eyes round, and asked, You stole something and hid it there! Are you a thief? What? Don't be stupid. I didn't steal anything. A clear image came to mind, that mitten hanging from a tree branch. What if I did steal it after all? From the forest, from the tilted figure standing behind the black trees? Olya could be selfish and stubborn when she wanted. Then show me! Swear that you won't tell anyone when I show you. Olya wore a plotting smile. I swear on Mom's heart! An oath she heard in one of the movies about pioneers we've watched. Don't say things like that. Olya nodded and made a gesture with her hand, locking her mouth with an imaginary key. She was filled with curiosity that was splashing in her giant eyes. I opened the drawer and Olya leaned in, holding her breath. It looked like there was not just a simple mitten, but some sort of exotic critter. Is this someone's mitten? She said that as if she couldn't understand what she saw. A certain boy lost it and got lost himself. Now, you do understand how dangerous it is for kids to wander into the forest, right? He must be really cold out there. Will they find him? They will. The police are going house to house, showing his photo to everybody. Olya traversed the room with care and pressed her tiny palms against the window. And why are they going house to house and not to the forest? Are they scared? The question caught me off guard. The police aren't scared of anything. Yeah, right, flashed in my clouded mind. Did they really check every nook and cranny where darkness, cold, and whispers of icy branches dwell? If that's the case, how did they miss the mitten? Or did it appear later? For me? I changed the topic, as if trying to get Olya as far away as possible from the forest thicket. We may get a reward if I go and find this boy myself. A lot of stuff like In the Field of Wonders sound cool, right? Olya wasn't listening to me. She was piercing the forest with incredibly adult eyes, uncharacteristic for her. What if the owl got him? Nonsense! An owl wouldn't be able to lift a human. But you know what? I was picking my words with utmost care. I forced them out of my overexerted brain. Stay away from the forest. I think it's... How should I put it? It's cursed or something. Just like a fairy tale? No, not like that. More like in that spooky tape Mom and Dad are hiding from us. Olya shivered and stole a glance at the window. I saw you running away! Someone was chasing you? No, it's just I was hurrying back home so Mom won't be worried. As I looked at my sister, my heart was tearing apart. She was too fragile. It was so easy to stifle her light. A gust of wind and her small fire would be gone. You're lucky. Mom won't even let me go outside. I'm like a princess in the tower, can't go anywhere. I'll die from boredom here. You're wrong. No one has ever died of boredom. And you have me and your cartoons, and Mom and Dad. We'll be good to each other soon. You know what? I wish for my next birthday, I'd wish for Mom and Dad to turn into children so we could go and play together like we used to. Yeah, and if you'd make them as small as bugs, we could place them into a little box. Olya giggled and tugged at my sleeve. Tony, let's go watch Aladdin. Fatigue won over my desire to be with my sister. I was washed away by some sort of heinous apathy. Can I not? Is there any other option? I'm too tired. I don't want to. Come on! It's so boring being alone, and Mom is always busy. We can pick a cartoon you haven't seen before. I know all of our tapes by heart at this point. Not all of them. You haven't watched Peter Pan. Remember how you fell asleep in the middle of it? And so much happened after that. Let's go, let's go. Maybe a bit later. Should I tell you how it ends? Let's leave that for tomorrow. I won't tell you tomorrow. I know, let's play hide and seek. No, Olya. Then draw me a dino. Olya, please. Draw it, draw it. Will you leave me alone already? I blurted it out without thinking, and then I was immediately taken aback. I had never screamed at my little sister like that. Olya stared back at me in shock. Her lips started trembling, a precursor to tears. My chest was seething with disgust and embarrassment. What had happened to me? I hurried to prevent Olya from crying. All right, you win. Let's go watch cartoons for a bit. I don't wanna. I came up to her, putting my hands on her soft head. Let's go. Let's go watch Peter Pan. Boo! You'll fall asleep again. I smiled and lifted her chin. Her eyes were wet and felt bottomless. I promise I won't. And I'll draw you a full Triceratops later. Hooray! Triceratops! Well, close enough. Olya rubbed her eyes with the sleeve of her pajamas, and a shining smile returned to her face. I'll go ask Mom for condensed milk and bread. You rewind the tape. The bread is fresh, just how you like it. Alright, just be careful not to spill the milk, or you'll be yelled at again. Wanna bet I won't spill it? The tape is somewhere in the nightstand, look for it. Olya disappeared into the doorway, and I dragged my feet into the neighboring room. What's these? What's these? I want to look for the tape. Where? She said it was somewhere on the nightstand. Where's tape? Ooh. Beep beep, a piggy bank. Olya is saving money for a real puppy because Dad said that taking care of him will take a lot of money. Olya's countless toys. Why does it make that noise? An old teddy bear is the main attraction here. Olya doesn't sleep without it, and she digs her nose into its fur when she sleeps. Let's go ahead and turn on the tape. The old photon TV was gathering dust in the corner. All that was left was clicking the... Okay, that's just my reflection. All that was left was clicking the button on the front panel. Oh, the high-pitched ringing. The tube warmed up and familiar white noise started dancing on the black screen. I almost reached out to turn on the VCR when the noise calmed down and a blurry image appeared for a moment. It was a dark take of forest, just like the one outside my window. The picture split the screen in half. Something creepy resembling human screech was coming out of the speaker. Just a few moments later, the scenery was again overshadowed by noise. Did I catch some rogue signal? Local TV station only really showed Soviet cartoons, and even that was pretty rare. And only just recently I used to always watch the Robotech before school. It was so awesome! Maybe I should tinker with the antenna. What if I catch this channel again? And on the other hand, Olya asked me to find the tape. It wouldn't be nice to disappoint her. But in my sleepy state, I didn't have the strength to do all of it. So we gotta make a choice. Do we try and find the channel, or do we search for the tape? That was the woods, though, wasn't it? That was the wood. Let's try and find it. That was the woods in the grainy film with the talking. That's not a good noise. The picture finally cleared up. But the moment I rejoiced at finding that weird signal again, the TV started coughing, a voice barely coming through the cacophony. It was often seen at the moment when small snowy hills were lined up on the scene, pierced with rickety crosses, and a male voice was narrating with a slow, mournful voice. It was pitch black. Night at the cemetery. In that fateful dark time, little Sinya met her fate at the face of a monstrous thicket dweller. The locals call him none other than the Forest Master. I froze and did my best not to move, as if by doing so that I could scare away the narrator. I listened closely to his every word. The beast dealt with the helpless girl in a masterful manner. The camera panned across the snow with something black spilled over it, looking for ragged pieces of cloth that were thrown all over the place. I didn't want to think whether Sinya's remains were wrapped in there, so I shut my eyes without thinking. That's an arm. That was an arm, guys. Wolves are a rare guest in these parts. Here's what Tamara, the old woman that lives in a nearby crypt, had to say. Close-up shot of her face of an old homeless woman weary from life and alcohol abuse rattled on the screen. Yes, yes, such a fearsome beastie. It's worse than the rising dead. The old woman spattered saliva all over the rectangular mic. And the stink, it's like... The rest of her comparison was swallowed up by the sound of a horn. I've never felt anything like that. It was just standing there, yes, right where you stand, boyo, and pierced me with its eyes right in the middle of the day. It was so huge, that one with glassy eyes. Obscenities were covered up by another beat. You know, they say if this demon lays its eyes on you, it'll snatch you, put you in its bag, and you're done. Is it Krampus? Is this Krampus right before Christmas? Is this Krampus? But he won't touch me, like me it seems, so they even call me. And it's definitely true, the carnivorous monster will not touch those who fell to the level of forest beasts, going after innocent child's blood instead. For the Forest Master's presence is felt more and more on the outskirts of our country. Torn between believing in what was said and shrugging it away, I decided to record the remaining part of the documentary for some reason. I quickly grabbed the tape that was on top of the TV and put it into the VCR without even looking at the cover. I pressed rec, turned the sound up, and paid attention to the slipping signal. It's not called the Forest Master for nothing. All of the animals obey it, be they hairy or feathery. They're all precursors for its appearance. If you hear howls in the distance, then it most likely already knows where you live. If you find animal prints all over your doorsteps and bird watching you from the trees, you'd better hide. It's already coming for you. Something's flashing on the screen that's unpleasant. And if you wake up at night and see a pair of eyes in your window, then soon, 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 soon. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. The TV suddenly went mad, and word over word pierced my ears. Don't do that again. I got goosebumps all over my spine. The tape ended, and I was rewinding to the beginning. The sound of rustling tape reminded me of leaves in the wind and the low howl of the beast. I woke up from my stupor and pressed the button. The VCR ejected the tape. For a moment, I thought it was stained with saliva, but that was just the light from the chandelier making the black plastic glossy. I got a chill, and then I saw the cover. Oops, I recorded over Peter Pan! That's what I get for hurrying. It was bad enough that I ruined Ollie's cartoon, but I also put this creepy stuff over it. I can't let her see this. We'll drown in tears. I snuck a glance at the door. I could hear the clatter of glass and squeaky floorboards. Ollie appeared in the doorway. You haven't started without me, have you? My sister brought the tray with the unveilingly cut bread and a whole can of condensed milk. Can I just take a second to say the soundtrack in this game is beautiful? No. I was looking for the tape. Do you really want to watch Peter Pan? I do! Turn it on already! Come on, think, fake detective. You know I didn't like Peter Pan. Maybe we should watch Little Mermaid instead. I've already seen it so many times! And you promised! She's so stubborn. I know, let's watch a couple of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episodes first. Deal? Olia frowned, but ultimately gave up. She put down the tray and crossed her hands on her chest. If you want it so much, can you open the milk can? I'm afraid I'll cut myself with the sharp edges. As soon as I stood up, colorful dots popped up before my eyes, and my sore legs were pierced by thousands of needles. Only when I reached the sofa, I realized the can was already open. Olia had tricked me, played me for a fool. My stomach became heavy. I wanted to rush toward the TV, but my little sister was faster. She picked up the remote and proclaimed in a victorious tone, Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha! As the remote's master, I command you to watch Peter Pan! I couldn't even open my mouth, and the VCR had already eaten the accursed tape. She'll play it then. Black crosses, unnamed graves, empty crypts, bloody scraps, insane devil's wench. I'd better tell the truth. Olia, stop! I erased the end of your tape by accident. I'll trade it with you for 2 of mine. What do you mean? You couldn't erase it. Me and Dad had broken off all those plastic pins with a screwdriver. You can't record anything over my cartoons now. My little sister pressed the triangular play button on the remote. I squeezed on the inside, awaiting the out-of-this-world voice of the narrator, but I saw the duel between Peter Pan and Captain Hook instead. I sighed in relief. My head heavy as a leaden ball now rested in my hands. Olia smiled in joy. She put the tape on rewind and started spreading milk over the bread. And when the cartoon started, she forgot about everything in the world. As if she actually really got transported to Neverland like she always wished. To be honest, I also imagined myself there, in a land where no one ages, where no one argues over little things, where no one listens to fights and the sound of broken plates at night. But now Peter's Pan land was especially far away from me. My thoughts dragged on, stumbled upon the horned beast that awaited me among the trees, and the narrator's mournful voice haunted me, sliding over bushes and ravines, like a winged carnivore would track its prey. I felt like I was dreaming with my eyes still open. Then my sister's scream pulled me back to reality. Tony, shut the curtains fast! Why? No one's watching you. It's dark, and when it's dark, the owl comes! I'm scared! I got out of bed, fighting my drowsiness, and closed the curtains. I did my best not to look outside toward the treetops, towards the taiga forest, which seemingly drew closer and closer. Of course, it was just a visual effect from shadows of branches scraping the snow. Tony, Mom thinks I made the owl up. And Dad, too, he thinks I'm a liar since I'm small. But the owl exists! Honestly, it does! You'd believe me, right? That it comes every night and I swiftly grabbed Ollie's hand and looked into her eyes. I was trying to transfer at least some of my courage and determination. But did I really have those qualities? Yes, I believe you, alright? Just don't nag our parents about it anymore. They're already dealing with a lot, so they'll just get mad at you. Come and tell me if anything happens. And don't look out the window. But it wants me to look! Doesn't matter. Act like it doesn't exist and never existed, like it's made up, just like Mom and Dad say. And I'll get tired. It'll get tired of waiting and fly away. It was madness, but after everything that happened recently, I was more and more inclined to believe Olia's owl existed. We followed Peter Pan's adventures as if nothing had happened, as if the forest didn't kidnap kids, as if our parents weren't tearing each other apart bit by bit. Captain Hook was running away from a crocodile, and Captain Pan was headed to London on a gilded sailboat. By some miracle, I lasted longer than my sister. Olia's eyelids had dropped. She started snoring slightly, resting her chin on the side of the bed. The chorus was singing the ending song. The world of Disney was lit up by a silvery moon. Don't do it again. Another moon peeked from behind the first one. Scary and wan, hanging over the taiga forest. The horrific report got recorded right over the credits. My throat went dry and my pulse became faster. I looked toward Olia. She smacked her lips in her sleep. I squeezed the remote with all my might, ready to press stop at any moment. I rewound the recording, checked if it was intact, and then carefully took out the tape. The protective pin was still in place. I stood up and left Olia's room. Whether it was by providence or by curse, I hid the tape alongside the mitten at the exact moment Mom peeked into my room. Enough playing around! It's your first day at school tomorrow. Go to bed. You should sleep properly. You don't want to be teased for being sleepy, right? Adults think everything is so simple, as if sound sleep would ensure my classmates would like me. I covered myself with a blanket up to my neck and listened to the house humming, to something invisible rustling in the corners. My inner voice had a question for me. Do I want to hear that mysterious flute again? Yes or no? Maybe it's just a part of growing up and I can't fully understand my own desires. The forest wailed behind the burial that was my walls. Some ethereal entity wandered the fields. Branches shook as if calling for me. The wind howled on in the night. My thoughts were like annoying flies that entered my head before becoming weak and tangled. I didn't notice how I fell into a slumber. Okay, everyone, that's episode 1. Okay, awesome. I want to thank you guys for watching. This is the first chapter, and if you guys want to see more of it, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Those are the best way to help me out. That's the best way to support the channel. If you want to support the devs, feel free to go over to Steam, all of their socials. I'll probably have links for their Steam page down below in the description. Check them out. Game is entirely free to play if you want to try it for yourself. It's a wonderful little story. This looks like an amazing project so far. I wish the devs all the best. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. So, bye-bye! Stay safe, everyone!